Hello, Channel Automation Podcast listeners. Welcome back to another deep dive into the techniques that convert leads. I'm your host, Casey Rice, and today I am joined by Joel Coelho of Inaugural Home. I said that right?
Coelho.
Coelho.
Yes.
Okay, apologies for that. We're just catching up earlier today, and I'm excited to have you on. Thank you for joining.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right, perfect. So we're just gonna kind of jump right into it. Tell me a little bit about your role at Inaugural Home.
Yeah, sure. So, again, my name is Joel Coelho. Thanks for having me here today. I'm actually one of the owners um, in the company. It's myself and my business partner, Zach. My specific role, though, is marketing and call center. I help kind of oversee sales, but we have a manager for that. But my day to day is producing leads and converting them in the phone center to appointments.
Oh yeah, so you get the fun stuff then.
Yeah, I get to deal with a lot of the fun stuff. No, I mean, love what I do. Love the team that I get to work with. And you guys at Channel have just helped that be a little bit easier for us. So it's going to be fun today. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, so while we're on that topic, tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you've had to overcome. I know that you guys are relatively new as a company, or like you're growing as a company. So, what have you had to overcome, and how has automation been able to help you keep in contact with your customers, or like changed it from like beginning, before, and after?
Yeah, great question. So about 3 years ago, right around the tail end of COVID, my business partner and I decided to come together and help each other out and form this business. My business partner is on the production side and had no sales and marketing experience, and I was a sales guy. I was a medical device sales rep. I carried a bag for many years, and I kind of had that customer experience that he didn't, and the experience with customers that he didn't. He like swung a hammer, didn't want to talk to people, so there was just no processes in place. He kind of took over a company from his father, and it was like your basic, do it yourselfer. He was answering the calls, he was, booking the appointments, he was going on all the sales calls himself, doing all the accounting. There was just no process, no procedure, at all when we started. Coming full circle where we are now, we actually have a call center team. We actually have a sales team. We actually have, production team. So we were able to, in a short time, kind of put the four pillars in place and build processes, around them. And obviously, the first problem that everyone has is, marketing, right? How do I get the leads? But then the second one is, all right, now that I have all these leads, what do I do with them? So as we implemented our call center and started to book those leads, then it became, well, how do we drive our cost of marketing down through efficiency? Because really, we were making the sales once we implemented a selling system, but we weren't booking or setting or issuing our appointments at a proper rate. And automation was just one of those things that helped us scale because as a small company, keeping the cost of a call center open, 24 hours a day, like some of these giants, and trying to beat them, speed to lead was, really important. And that's when we found you guys.
Very cool. All right. I mean that's exactly what a lot of people say that are kind of getting started with automation. So that's good to see that you're sort of like following that same line where you're like, "Hey, too many leads is everybody says like, "Hey, that's a great problem to have," but at the same time, you don't want to have those long wait times with your clients. And I know how that can be when there's like, "Okay, I want to have my touch points. I want to know when all my materials are in. I want to know when you guys are coming out. I want to know who's coming out." Having to do all of those different parts in addition to scheduling new appointments and keeping up with new leads that you may be purchasing or you may be acquiring as a referral, that could be really challenging, and you lose opportunities that way or risk also ticking off your customers if they don't hear from you.
Yeah, you said it the best. What we kind of learned the hard way is, and everyone on the production side is going to understand this, like nothing really becomes a problem until communication is at its lowest point. right? Like if you're communicating with your customer at a high level, some of what we deem the smaller mistakes are not that bad, right? So we're, in the 1 day bath remodel. So, some of the things that we might hear is, this caulking isn't as good as it could be, or we wanted this panel to come out, a quarter of an inch, a little bit more. None of those things really come up when you're communicating at a high level with your customer. But when you're not communicating with your customer, all of a sudden you get this punch list that's like 15 or 20 items long. And it's like, well, I found this one thing and then I ripped everything apart. And the minute that we increased our communication at a much higher level, we found that that punch list became smaller and smaller. And now it's almost like non existent. It's very rare for us to get a call back because we probably 10x our communication from what it was 3 years ago.
I love hearing that. Man, 10x, that's a big difference. Big, big difference.
Yeah, we used to get callbacks on almost every single job. And when we really looked at what the callbacks were, they were these really, tiny little things, right? And listen, no one's going to be perfect. We're all going to make mistakes. But when we really dived in deep and started to understand with our customers, what was it? It was not only a communication issue from the very beginning when we first met this customer on the marketing segmentation, but then afterwards, we found, wow, when we signed that contract, we kind of just stopped the communication. And, like being a smaller company, we don't have panels just sitting in our warehouse that are going to get installed. We have to order them, and there's a 3-4 week, waiting period. At the time, it was 6 weeks. We've been able to minimize that now, but that's a long time to go without communicating with your customer. And just being able to automate some simple email and text messages that will just keep them in the loop. Hey, your materials are in. They're going through an inspection. They're being ordered. The measure tech is coming out. We need to collect your second payment. Just having these different touches, it makes the customer feel like, okay, like something's actually happening versus there's this 6 week gap. And now it's like, I'm going to come up with problems because I haven't heard from anyone.
Yeah. And even the littlest problems, such as like what you were talking about, like the caulking could have been better. It may be at the time when they noticed it and they bring it up to you and you can go and send somebody out to fix it. That's fine. But 6 weeks later, suddenly it's like, gosh, this thing has been sitting here for so long. It's the biggest problem I've ever heard of. These guys have never worked with anybody else and it's only me and they're not giving me the attention.
Yeah, and listen, part of the communication, it's not only what we can automate. It was also training our call center people and our measure techs and our installers, right? So it's how can we communicate with our customer overall, right? It Automation is just one part of it, and it's a really important part of it. But for me, that role is for speed to lead and maximizing those touch points, right? But we also need to speak to our people about, okay, how can we maximize our touch points with you? It's not just, hey, I'm Joel, I'm going to install your bath today, and I'll see you at 5 o'clock when the job is done. It's how can we continue to communicate with them? Because ultimately, I want to catch those problems on the job site when I'm there. It costs me money to now have my call center take that call, send a production manager to go look at what's wrong with it, and then send a crew to go back out to go fix it. So if we can find a way to symbiotically bring together our technology with training our people, that's what really caused us to communicate at that 10x level from where we were to where we are now and help minimize those problems. And then the other side of it is on the sales side, right? It's like, yeah, okay, we can minimize our issues, but what about the fun part? What about getting in contact with our customers, and what about selling to our customers? It's helped us do that, probably at a 10%. It's probably helped the minute we employed automation, it helped increase our sales by probably a 10% gross rate, I would say.
And the customers, like, have you noticed a difference in terms of, like, when you were doing it manual versus automation? Like, are they cool with talking to, like, potentially, like, AI bots? Or have you noticed any kind of, like, difference in terms of appointment setting? Are the appointments stickier? Or are they, like, it's a little bit just it's just different?
Yeah, it's different. I don't know how it is for everyone, but when I would say the first 60 days that we went through the process, what I realized is there's a segmentation of customer out there that we weren't even communicating with because their preferred method of contact was not verbal with a person on the phone. It's just the reality of the world that we live in. And these are things that we all know, but just as a business owner, it just never dawned on me that there's a category of customer out there that does not want to interact with someone, and being able to employ, you know, chat bots or automated text or emails or any of the fancy stuff that we're doing that really goes over my head sometimes, is that's how people want to communicate. So we were able to capture some of those leads that we would never have a conversation with because they were just able to go and book on their own. And that customer needs to be treated a little bit differently than maybe someone who does want to talk to on the phone.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I'm one of the I mean, I'm biased as well, but I'm one of those people that if I can not talk on the phone, that's the route that I would like to take. Did you notice? Because a lot of people think, oh, the people who don't want to talk on the phone are going to be like millennials or people who are younger. Do you notice a difference with that? Or is it like across the board, some people that are older age are using text messaging? Like, is there some sort of like a bias that where you're overcoming, or at the same time, it's like it could be anyone doing anything?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at enough data to really come up with a demographic, but the one thing that they do have in common is that they're busy and they look at this as efficient. I don't want to spend 15 to 20 minutes on the phone. It's not as efficient as me answering five simple questions that are just like yes, no, ABC, and then just bring me to a booking link where I can book. It's just those people that we communicate with either A, like efficiency, or B, maybe they're a little shy and they don't want to talk to what they deem as someone pushy or salesy, on the phone. So, those are the two things that I do see with the customers that we're segmenting on our automation side.
That's good. All right. Yeah, I think that the pushiness is definitely it's like if I'm talking to somebody you might be too effective and I'm going to be having my guard up, but if I'm talking to a computer that's just trying to set an appointment with me, I know what the computer's doing already. It might
Yeah.
be actually more comforting. You never know.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it, like this customer segmentation that we've been able to pick up was just not comfortable with the way that we would handle our intake. And now we've allowed them to come in and fill their web form, go through the automation or go through a landing page and just book the way that they're comfortable to book. It's just another spread on our buffet. There's a couple ways that you could book an appointment, right? You could do it at an event, you could do it on the phone, you could do it online, automated, and we just want to have the availability for everybody. And this was just something that we didn't even think about, and now it's just helping us capture that segmentation. At the same time, there is a group of people that are not interested, right? Or maybe not interested right now. And what it allows us to do is when our call center might be a little busy calling on some of the newer leads, it allows us to stay at the forefront of their mind and follow up with them on a longer term basis. We had thousands of contacts in our CRM. And the very first thing that we did in December was came up with a campaign where we said, let's just have some touches with them. It's like the 12 days of Christmas or however that song goes. We were going to do like 12 days of touch points with them, and we were going to send them an email and a text message and a phone call. Like we had this whole campaign worked out. Well, what came out of that campaign, right? What came out of it was every sale that we made on average had an additional 8 to 12 touch points in comparison to someone who was brand new in the system that we were able to convert quickly, right? So it's like our goal, speed to lead, 60 seconds. We want to get them on the phone. After a day or two, it becomes a little bit harder. So these were all leads that have been in our system for 6 months to 2 years, maybe. And we were able to convert out of, I believe it was 3,000 contacts. We were able to get 4 sales out of people that were just sitting in our CRM that we were doing absolutely nothing with. So that became kind of like a light bulb moment because we had the biggest December that we had that said, wow, we really need to deploy some sort of long term follow up in an automated way to just keep on the forefront of our mind. And it's now developed into like this crazy campaign where we're doing email marketing, we're doing a newsletter with them now, we're doing social media content. Like now it's become more of like a nurturing thing, because this is marketing dollars that you paid for. And when you're able to squeeze every penny out with leads that have been sitting in your CRM, you now just went from maybe a 15 to 20% marketing cost on a new lead to like virtually nothing. It's already paid for. What does it cost you? Overhead in your call center? That's about it.
Love it. That, and we're big proponents of what we call golden garbage, which you're just letting your leads sit around that you've already bought.
Yeah.
There's no point in just leaving them there unless there's like some sort of reason that you think, these guys they were interested in a project and now all of a sudden that they're not. Unless they've bought from somebody else, then yeah, they're still going to be interested in a project. And it's so weird that you said like some of these leads, they're over like 8 months old. You would think by this point they already wouldn't got their stuff done because they filled out a form about it, but that's not the case. You're absolutely right. Like people will sit on stuff for the longest time, and then everybody who's done speed to lead, everybody who's like letting their leads sit and stew, they don't come back to try again, and you guys do, which makes you different.
Yeah, I mean, this perspective could totally be wrong, but this is just my perspective right now as where we sit as a company. The reason why we deployed technology was one, to help us scale, and two, it was to fight back against the Goliaths, right? We're a small company. We like to call ourselves the David of our area. We have some major, major, major companies out here that have hundreds of millions of dollars in marketing available. They have thousands of employees. We're small. We're 15 people, not including, our production team. So how do we become effective? How do we fight the Davids of the world? Like I have 3 people in my call center, not 10, 15, or 20, and rolling out some automation with the strategy has helped us to combat that. And what I just realized one day, because we were calling on some old customers prior to having tech, was someone that I was had a scheduled follow up with went with one of my competitors because they had told me, "Hey, call me in August." And they were like, "Oh yeah, we did it with a competitive company back in June." And I was like, "Man, like how did I lose that?" Well, they were ready earlier than what they told me. And guess what? The Goliath beat me because he got to the customer first. And if I just had what we had now, the golden garbage funnel, as we're calling it, I bet we could have won that customer. So part of it too is, how do I compete with the Goliaths of the world? And something as simple as just a monthly text or email, or a bi-weekly text or email, or combated with a phone call here and there, helps me at least stay a little bit up against the competition. I have a little bit of a chance in comparison to some of these massive call centers in our area.
It's human psychology, and it's the trying to find the balance between being annoying and keeping yourself in the realm of the person's mind in general. And I always ask people this just because I'm curious about your opinion. And it is an opinion because every single audience has a different way of the way that they want to be communicated with and how often they want to be communicated with. What do you think is the amount of text messages or calls you should make with a 1 month old client?
Wow. So I don't think all right, there is a limit now that I think about this. I would say, listen, you don't want to go out there and call them every 5 seconds for, the next 2 hours, right? There's a lot of companies that do that with nebulous leads. They will auto dial until they get someone on the phone for 10, 15 minutes. I think that is, obnoxious. And now this all becomes part of your strategy, right? But part of your strategy, bigger than that, is you have to know, what is your company's vision? What are your core values? And for us, we really care. We're a small company, we're locally owned, we live in our community, we care about our community members, right? So if I am Joel, your cousin, your brother-in-law, your friend's friend, how would I call you? I'm not going to call you 10, 15, 20 times a day and give you 30 or 40 text messages, right? I might shoot you one text message in the morning, a phone call, in the evening or something like that. So typically we don't go beyond 3 touches a day. And we kind of have them categorized, right? It's like a hard touch would be, like a phone call with a voicemail, a text is soft, and email's even softer. So if I'm going to go beyond 3 hard touches a day, which would be like 3 calls or, 2 calls and a text, I will send some softer ones. I'll do an email, I'll do a postcard, something like that. So I think it depends, right? You can get away with more touches in a day, but let's just look at the level of intensity, right? It's like I wouldn't go and call someone 5, 6, 7, 8 times, a day. You're just going to piss them off. How do you want to come off? Now, on the flip side, no matter what you do, no matter what number you pick, there's always going to be a customer that says, I'm not doing business with you because you were too pushy. And you know what? Those are not the customers for you. They were never really interested. That's just what I had to tell myself. And you want to know something? I don't put them in the dead queue. I put them in a long term follow up queue and we'll follow up with them once a month. So it's never, the point is never end the communication with your customer. For me, they're not dead, even if they went with another competitor, because one of the things that we're grabbing is how many bathrooms do you have? If you have 2 bathrooms and you only did one, I still want to communicate with you on a monthly basis. But maybe I'm not going to call you. It's going to be something a little soft like we spoke of.
I love it. The combination of the different items and ranking the intensity of it, that's something that I've never heard before, and I think that that's the right way to go. Like, yeah, you can still keep yourself top of mind without being on a phone call or without having a text message, just something like an email just to check in and have you still within relevancy. That's a very good way of putting it. I like that answer a lot.
Everything that we personally do as a company is to come off like the Davids of the world, right? Like I said, there's some Goliaths out there and we all know how they do business. But that's not the way that we do business. We want to come off with exactly who you are. When you look at my website and you find my people, you can see their photo, you can see their name, that's exactly who picks up the phone, and they treat you exactly like a human. It's not necessarily a, B, C, D. We have to follow these points. And that's the way that we want to come off. So, what I would, ask everyone to do is really take a look at what is your vision for your company? What are your core values? And is the way that you're communicating with your customer come off that way? Because if you're coming off really aggressive, but like one of our core values is, we're very humble. Like everyone, like humility is a very important core value. Everyone that works for us is very humble. They're very open-minded. They're very much looking forward to growth. But another one of our core values is relentless commitment. But what does that mean, right? Like I could relentlessly call you, but that is not the context of our core value. And like all of our people know that. So sometimes relentless commitment for us means that we have to be more committed to this project than our customer, right? And a lot of times that's just what it takes. And any salespeople here that are listening to this podcast will relate with that. I mean, how many times have you finished the demo, presented your price, and they have said, no thanks, thanks for the quote, see you later. It takes relentless commitment for you to sit down and go through your closing sequence to try and get them to close. It's the same thing in marketing and it's the same thing, with our call center. So when you're asking yourself about, what is the frequency or how intense, I would say that depends on your messaging. Some people might be a little bit more aggressive, but for us it's works out, just fine.
Well said. Very well said. And yeah, feeling people out is very important, especially as sales and marketing person. And it's very, very easy, especially when I first got started. I've been in the business for about 11 years now. And it's one of those things where when somebody is like, no, I do not want this right now, and they tell you to your face, it's very tempting to be like, okay, that's fine, see you later, I won't bother you anymore. And then you get out of there and you're like, whew, okay, that they're done, they don't want anything, I won't talk to them anymore. It's so tempting to do that. But also it's very tempting if you're somebody who is more on the aggressive side to be like, well, why don't you want this? Or what is the reason, like what did we present that you weren't agreeing with, or something along those lines. like finding the balance between saying like, okay, I'll let you cool off or I'll let you kind of marinate on it. And you wouldn't believe how many people come back to you and they're like, hey, yeah, that quote that you gave me, I talked to a couple other people and that's starting to not look that bad. I thought that bathroom only costs like $2,000, but I'm learning that's not the case. And you were probably out of the group of people the one that actually was honest with me about it. So, yeah, giving them a chance to like marinate, but also at the same time, uh, not completely rolling over. That's a balance that's really it doesn't come naturally to everybody.
Yeah, and there's a lot that you put there that I can comment about, right? One is totally the human element, right? We want to respect our customers and the way that they view us. We don't want to be too pushy. But the second part of that is training. That's what I hear too, right? Because the number one thing that you're going to get in your call center is I'm not ready right now, and for a call center representative to just, say, totally get it, you're not ready right now, have a nice day, it's kind of unacceptable. It's kind of like a sales rep getting the rebuttal where, well, that's too much. And it's like, well, of course it's too much. It's like, I knew it was too much before I even came in the home, but we don't pack up our bags and just leave, right? We have to work through our closing roadmap. So, what I would say is if you're listening to this and you're getting those objections, you have to invest in training. You have to invest in your people. And like our people know that what your customers really saying is not that they can't afford this. What they're really saying is, I don't know if I can afford this and if you are going to make it affordable to me, because they don't know how we do business, right? Like they don't know if we offer financing. They don't know how much the price point's going to be. They only know what they know. And that's why we have to get our representatives, in the door. Well, the only way to do that is by empowering your call center to set that up, right? So for us, it is the free quote and estimate, which I'm sure everybody does. But I think what we do really good and what we do in our automation really good is we explain the appointment. And I think a lot of the Goliaths just want to hit their KPIs, right? It's how many booked appointments, how many issued appointments a day, right? I think what we do really well is explaining the process to our customer, And if someone tells me, hey, I'm not ready, right now, that's totally fine, Is this something that you're ever going to do, And you're going to get some sort of response. Like if you called me today, you're thinking about doing this project probably right now. Like there's a reason why you called my company today. There's a reason why you went to Google and said, how do I fix my drafty windows? Or I want a new screen door, or I want a new, porch door, a new bathroom, a new kitchen. Like something happened in that person's life that said, I am no longer going to go through this today and I'm going to call someone. But then something happened along the line where they said, this is enough. I don't want to book any more appointments because I probably sat down with one or two competitors and found out that I can't afford it. So now what your call center representative is really going through is undoing everything that probably the two previous companies just did, right? And what that takes is a humble conversation, because your customer is not going to open up to you and just tell you these things on the phone. Your team needs the training to uncover how to get that. And the first question is this something that you're ever going to do in the future? They're obviously going to say yes. So you just walk them down the line. Great. If you had to put a time frame on it, when do you think this is something that you would do? And they're probably say 6 months from now, next year, 2 years, 3 years. And then the response is always the same. Well, great. When you do that, are you just going to call one company and go with the first company that gives you a quote? Or are you going to plan and budget and call several companies? Yeah, no, I'm going to call. Who's going to say, no, I'm going with the first company? They're going to say, yeah, I'm going to go with several companies and, get several quotes because I need a plan and budget. Well, did you get any quotes yet? I got one or two, boom, I just uncovered it, Or they're going to say no. And if they say no, I sell the appointment. Well, that's exactly what this is. It's a free quote and it's good for a year. And it's to help you plan and budget for when you are ready. Our job is not to sell the bathroom. Our job is to sell the appointment, And what you need to sell to your customer is, what is the value of this appointment to me? They don't care about your fancy company coming in and showing their fancy products. It's, I have to give up an hour of my time. What am I going to get out of it? And you have, that's what you get out of it. You'll have my guy who, hey, is always in the area, by the way. It'll be about 60 to 90 minutes. You'll pick out some stuff and they'll leave you with a quote to help you budget for when you are ready, and that's the way we come off on the phone. It's like we're here to serve you, and then it's our sales reps' job to help close that and show them how we can make it affordable to them today, not a year from now, not 2 years from now, today, and 30% of the time we're successful with that. The rest of the time we're not, but we don't stop communicating with them.
I think that's it. I think that's the sauce right there, is you are there to help and serve them to reach their goals. You are not there to reach a certain KPI. And anytime somebody tells me like, "Yeah, my limit is per person. I want each person to be able to do 40 phone calls a day." I'm like, "40 phone calls of what? 40 phone calls of them making the call and then you say 1, 2, 3. Those aren't going to be valuable phone calls. Like what's the point?" And what you're saying is it's the same thing that we agree with at Channel Automation. It's like even if it's a smaller amount of leads, you want to treat those leads like, exactly how you would want your appointment to go if you were making an appointment for your house and it was a few $1,000s. You want somebody to talk to you and say, "Okay, we are going to help you achieve what you want to do. Obviously, we're not going to say, 'Give me a few $1,000s right now.' Let's talk about your options in
Yeah.
order to afford what you want to do and to complete your goal." And I think that that's a great way to go about it.
Yeah, and I would be, to just kind of to go back, I think something that we do really well is that we listen to our industry experts. So what you just heard me say about training, shout out to Megan Beatty with Tony Hody training. That's where that came from. I didn't know any of that. We struggled for a year and a half, and then someone told us about Megan and Tony Hody, and I consumed all their content. I bought their training manuals. You need to invest in training. You need to invest in your people. None of this matters if you can't implement it with a plan. And this whole business has been figured out. There's nothing new to figure out. And when we started on this journey, the reason why we've been able to go from 0 to 3.8 million profitably, by the way, in 3 years, is because we listened to the experts that say this is the way that it has to get done. And we didn't question it. We had to put, that's where the humility part comes in our core values. You have to put your ego aside and say, well, these people have done it very successfully for these companies. I just need to listen. So that's like the one thing that I wish that everyone who's struggling would do. We go to a lot of masterminds, we do a lot of education. And the one thing that drives me crazy is people who are there wasting an hour or 2 hours or a weekend of their time to listen to experts and then don't do what they say.
There's no point. I always call it the Hell's Kitchen or like the Hotel Hell effect, where it's like you're calling Gordon Ramsay to come out to help you save your restaurant. So why are you arguing with him? Because clearly what your opinion is not working. It's it's the same. It's the same in any industry. Like you being having that humility and knowing when to say I do need help and listening to that help and say let's just see if it works. What do you have to lose if you've already lost? You know.
Yeah, exactly. And let me tell you, we were losing big time. The largest area I would bet that most people don't have a leads problem. We know how to get leads, especially in this day and age of the internet. Finding leads is easy. Where probably most people have a problem is converting those leads. And, you know, I personally know this because, we first went online to get leads and we couldn't convert them. We would say, oh, this lead aggregator sucks or this PPC company stinks, like the quality of the lead is trash. And it's like, no, the problem is I'm picking up this phone call in my truck on a job site and I'm just like, yeah, you got a bath, cool. When can I go there? And that's just not how you deal with dealing with a lead. You need to have a process. You need to have training, and you have to be humble enough to listen to the people that are trying to help you. And we didn't do that very well the first 6 months, but once money starts running out and you have to inject more cash into your business, you're going to listen pretty quick.
And I think that's an excellent closing statement. And so I appreciate you for taking your time, because time is valuable, as we were just talking about, to be with us here today. And I think that you gave some excellent advice as well. And so that's going to be it for us. Whether that you love or you hate what you've heard today, we do want to hear from you. We're going to be putting Inaugural home, all of their information down in the description. We'll put our own information down in the description. We do want to hear from you, so comment or shoot us an email at hello@channelautomation.com. And also, please consider subscribing to our podcast. And all of our guests also, if they have social media, if they have websites, get in contact with them, especially if you love what they had to say, talk to them. That's why we have experts on here, in order to put that information in front of you. And as always, please make sure to keep your lead conversion high.